A Journey to the West. I've recently finished making this for everyone. This Dharma text, which we are discussing here, should be considered quite good and valuable. I plan to introduce it a little each day over the next few days. Maybe it will be meaningful, especially the parts about His Holiness. I should have this lineage oral transmission. So for you all, it's still better to have a lineage oral transmission. This Journey to the West mainly records the teachings of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche that I noted down at the time. In 1993, when he went to Europe and America to spread the Dharma. In 1990, His Holiness went to India, Nepal and Bhutan. This was written as the recollection of the time gone by. It mainly records some events from that time. It doesn't include many of His Holiness's teachings. This one is a bit different. It contains many teachings. So mainly what I want to say is, in the preface I mentioned several aspects. First, because when we went to Europe and America at that time, transportation and information in Tibet were very limited. His Holiness spent his whole life living in Tibet. He was such an old practitioner, from language to lifestyle and many other aspects. He probably didn't know much about the West. At that time, Canada, the United States and France, these countries were all highly developed in terms of technology. In all respects, they were indeed universally considered to be among the most advanced in the world. So when His Holiness went there, it was supposed to be very challenging, but unexpectedly, in fact, after His Holiness arrived there, it should be said that he used his transcendent wisdom to influence many people at that time. We can give some examples of this later on. Even after 30 years, many Westerners still have a very deep impression of His Holiness from that time. This is the first aspect which I have briefly introduced. Now, the second aspect, His Holiness lived in this world for 71 years. In his extensive biography, the other events of his life are described in great detail. But the entire journey to the West is something that many people are not particularly familiar with. At that time, it was also a very fortunate circumstance for me, as I always had the opportunity to accompany the Master. It seems that now, among the witnesses, there are only myself, Khenpo Namdro, Lama Ujo and Master Mentsuo. Not all of them have necessarily written memoirs or personal accounts about that time, so I very much want to present His Holiness's unique and extraordinary charisma to the world. At that time, I kept a detailed written record. There were also some audio and video recordings. I kept recording and preserving them all along. But as time went by, gradually, over time, some of them eventually became completely unusable. Later on, I tried a variety of different ways and methods to find some related materials and information, including some videos from that time. But I never really organized them properly. There were always all sorts of trivial matters like giving teachings and so on. So I never got around to organizing them, and it's been many years now. That's the second aspect. Then the third aspect is that just this year, it happens to be the 20th anniversary of the parinirvana of His Holiness. And it's also the 30th anniversary of His Holiness's trip to the United States. At such a special time, I put aside many other things. Starting from the end of last year, I began to continuously organize the Tibetan and Chinese materials myself by hand. Our English group and international translation group were tasked with organizing the English and Japanese versions. I was quite meticulous during the process. I would get up at 4 in the morning and work on it almost non-stop. Aside from some recitations, I basically didn't do much else. Later on, for a period of time, my health wasn't very good either. I also underwent some surgeries, but afterward I felt an even stronger sense of impermanence. It just so happened that at the end of April this year, His Holiness's journey also lasted 105 days. Coincidentally, the time I spent organizing everything was also exactly 105 days. In this way, the book was completed, at least in its preliminary form. This is what I wanted to share as the third aspect. Now, regarding the fourth aspect. During the editing process, I tried my best to use some of His Holiness's audio materials, first organizing them in Tibetan, then translating them into Chinese. For some of the stories and historical accounts included, I did my best to research the history. If I really couldn't find the information, I would rely on what His Holiness had said as the standard. At that time, there were some things, including some photos that were added to the book. Some photos were inserted during the typesetting process, some of them because so much time has passed. The technology, equipment and cameras used back then were not of very good quality. But I also managed to find some videos. Some of them aren't very clear, but for the sake of serving as a kind of testimony, they can also be considered historical materials. For some of the videos, I also extracted clips and included them. Of course, there are different opinions about this. Some people say it might be better not to include them, but I think they might add a bit of a historical sense to the visuals and can be considered authentic historical footage. This is the fourth aspect. The fifth aspect, originally, our predecessors and great masters had this view. When it comes to debate and lectures, the language isn't always very rigorous, but when composing treatises, it must be very precise. So, in general, lecture notes are not particularly suitable to be turned directly into written texts. However, when His Holiness teaches, his words are eloquent and well-formed, and all of these spoken words can basically all be organized into written form. Therefore, I have also organized them, and while doing so, I added some of my own commentary in between. There was a principle for these commentaries. I did not use even a single word of exaggeration, nor did I offer any praise for my own teacher. Based on this principle, everything should be recorded as truthfully as possible. This was also part of the editing process at the time. This concludes the fifth aspect. Now, the sixth aspect, as you can also see in the book, during these more than 3 months, His Holiness hardly had a single day of rest. He was either teaching the Dharma or on the road to teach the Dharma. Teaching the Dharma also included giving empowerments and delivering teachings. He was constantly traveling by car. All of this went far beyond what ordinary people could handle. It was truly an overloaded schedule. Without the great compassion to benefit sentient beings, it would be impossible for an ordinary person to do this. This is also evident from the account. Now, the seventh aspect. During this journey, His Holiness gave these Westerners some very special teachings that are rarely given even in Tibet. In the past, when we listened to a teacher's Chetsun Nyingtig, one had to complete all the preliminary practices. I didn't get to hear it the first time, and I was very sad about it. The requirements for the Manjushri Great Perfection are also very high. But His Holiness said, "This is my first and also my last time going to the West. So this time I will leave you all of my teachings without holding anything back." So within these teachings, there were many, especially rare and supreme tantric teachings. Of course, as I mentioned here, if one were to practice all the tantric teachings included here, if you were to practice them yourself, you must first receive the empowerment, the transmission, and then the guidance. Only then can you actually engage in such practice. This should be the seventh aspect. As for the eighth aspect, as everyone knows, these two books are actually quite thick. Together they probably have approximately 600 or 700 pages in total. So now, for readers who are used to mobile phones and online content, it might not be easy to have the patience for such lengthy articles, to have that kind of patience. Everyone especially likes things that are short and concise, or some simple stories. In an era satisfied with such things, these people may not be very happy. But for those who seek liberation, especially those who have faith in His Holiness, these are truly teachings that flow from the ocean of His Holiness's wisdom, and are especially precious instructions. You will all understand this once you read them. When we were proofreading before, some people, after reading them, felt that we must make a version with better quality. This includes the Khenpos among the Tibetans here. Many of them feel the same way. Some of our Dharma friends here have never met His Holiness in person. But after reading this, perhaps it truly is no different from having met His Holiness in person and listened to his teachings. There is really no difference. I think even if you did meet him, apart from his physical form, there is nothing more to the teachings. So every single teaching here was actually the same in the West at that time, and it is still the same now. You must pay a fee if you want to attend a class. Every single class has a fee. It was only later in Boston that I gave everyone a representative explanation. I didn't mention anything else. Actually, in the West, everything requires a fee. If you want to listen to the entire series, I haven't calculated it in detail, but it should definitely take a lot of US dollars to finish listening to all of it. So I think if you were to choose to follow His Holiness as well and carefully listen to all of these teachings, then maybe your financial situation might not allow it. That's why this time we've put everything into writing. This is also thanks to modern technology, and it's one of the most important reasons for our journey to the West. In the past, when I went to Canada and the United States, there were a few Dharma friends who followed me to every school. Later, they ran out of money for travel and had to stop. They said, I can't fly anymore now. My wings are gone. I think if we want to follow His Holiness, it might be a bit difficult. This is what I wanted to present and discuss as the 8th point that I would like to share with you. Now, the 9th point. This book can be said to be a record of a great Buddhist master's first-hand experiences, you could say. It should be said that these are his real-life stories, a record like this. People from different perspectives may see it and gain different benefits. For example, if an ordinary person in the world reads it, they might think, Buddhism too in reality has visited so many monasteries, has traveled to so many countries, and actually they have worked very hard as well. Perhaps people in the world, those who don't study Buddhism, might also have this kind of feeling. If we look at it from the perspective of a practitioner, there are many precious teachings in here which are very important for you. You might find, this part, for me, this pith instruction of Dzogchen, this pith instruction of Mahamudra is very important. From the perspective of someone spreading the Dharma, in the future when you are teaching the Dharma yourself, you can say, this is how His Holiness used to do it. He never took a day off, and in every monastery, his words flowed eloquently as soon as he spoke. Everything was expressed directly and naturally, unlike us who need to prepare lessons beforehand and spend hours getting ready. When we get there, what we say does not come from our own wisdom. It's squeezed out from the Dharma texts. Some people just read from a script. None of this is really the same at all. So for those who spread the Dharma, this might also be somewhat inspiring. And for those who follow His Holiness, those who are part of this lineage in the future, you can also visit the monasteries His Holiness visited, the cities he went to, the tourist attractions he visited, including places like New York and Washington, including Boston and various other cities that are political, economic and cultural centers. It's quite interesting. So you can also learn from his spirit of spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. This is, in my preface, roughly 9 aspects of content. Finally, I would especially like to thank the team behind A Journey to the West, including those who participated at the time, typists, editors and proofreaders, as well as those who did the layout and printing. More importantly, those who provided me at the time. And some monasteries also provided some audio and video materials, including some photos and so on. At that time, I also gave everyone a heads up in advance, so if anyone had such materials, they could provide them to me. Later, there were also some sent to my email. Some of them were completely unintelligible when listened to, but they could still serve as a bit of a reference. And I was also thinking that next year, in 1995, His Holiness visited Singapore and Malaysia. He only spent about a month in those places. If there are any materials, I have a little bit on hand now, but not much. It seems that the closer it gets, the more I forget. There's nothing much left. That day, Khenpo Lodro said that all of his records, he said that he has a calendar for every year. So I asked, if you have it, could you check the one from 1995? Look at the period when we went to Singapore. Then he took a look at it. This part is missing. Maybe it's recorded somewhere else. Everything else is there. Since the rest is there, I don't really expect more. But it's not really useful anyway. So recently I've also been inquiring about the situation in Malaysia. The current Dharma Center in Malaysia, it seems to be over in Kuala Lumpur. But now it can't be found either. I don't know. I think it was mentioned back then. There were some people who met His Holiness at that time, but no one really paid attention back then. So maybe people from Malaysia and Singapore, if they know anything about His Holiness at that time, if they went back then, I'd like to talk with them too. It was only a month, which is actually quite short. If impermanence hadn't occurred, because His Holiness went abroad 3 times, I had the opportunity to accompany him all 3 times. The last time was in 1995, and then after another year, basically another 30 years have passed. So writing a short memoir is also possible. If it doesn't work out, that's fine too. In any case, I am especially grateful to everyone who participated. Because of their involvement, this book is even more wonderful, as their participation has truly enhanced its quality and depth. Their presence and contributions have made the history within these pages come alive, making the events and stories described here much more vivid, engaging, and memorable for every reader. Throughout the whole process, there may be some things that are inappropriate or unreasonable, and there may be some mistakes. I sincerely confess to the Guru Rinpoche, as well as before the Yidam, Dharma protectors and Dakinis, with genuine repentance. If there is any benefit, merit, or positive quality to be found in this book, I also sincerely and wholeheartedly dedicate it, with the utmost respect and compassion, to all sentient beings everywhere, without exception. At this time, they also wished Tulku Tenzin to proofread the Tibetan version. Later, the Tibetan proofreading, and this year's monastery leaders, they also requested that it be printed during this year's Parinirvana Dharma Assembly. So, regarding the date of the preface that follows, there is a slight change, but in general, 99% of it remains the same. However, a few things have been added inside, so the final date at the end has changed a little bit. But the earlier part has already been printed. This issue probably isn't a big deal. As for the Tibetan version, they are only planning to distribute it during the Parinirvana Dharma Assembly. But for us, even though it's not the Parinirvana Dharma Assembly, it just so happens that we have now passed the 30-year mark. I remember today is August 28th. It should be in the Journey to the West memoirs that we had already arrived at l'Érable in France. We were about to return soon. Recently, it seems that at l'Érable in France, they are also holding the 4th anniversary of Rinpoche Sogyal's Parinirvana and are currently conducting a commemorative Dharma assembly. I remember at that time, on August 28th, His Holiness was giving a teaching on the unsurpassed great perfection Dharma. That afternoon, I also gave them a very straightforward and easy to understand instruction. That was a memory. The origin of this is also quite wonderful. As for us, we start reminiscing now. How did His Holiness experience 30 years ago? We can also pay attention to the details. Sometimes we can look at this aspect a little bit. All these are in the book. I don't have anything else to say. If you are interested, take a look at the preface. As for the later parts, we'll talk about them when the time comes. All right, that's all for today.
Sonam dei tamse thobaya tonne de dhamma pase jirgana jirano chupai chupun solen droa droa bandangara badna sodargye bandangara badna sodargye bandangara badna sodargye